You found the skeleton. How would you tell people that is you personally? How would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
All right, hey everybody. We are here for Kent with Bent 47, Kent Hard. But before we really get into it, as most of you probably know, we lost Banator on Saturday. I still don't have all the details. I doubt that this is the first place that you're hearing about it. But yeah, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just take a moment to remember Boole, and we're going to have a quick minute. I guess you can't have a quick minute. We're just going to have a minute of silence to honor one of the greatest guys who was ever in sort of the debunking type community. So I'm going to mute my desktop, and we're going to have a quick minute. I just have a little spinning version of his profile picture that's just going to play to help time everything out, and so that there's something up on the screen. So yeah, we're going to start with that quick little thing. So here we go. All right, sorry that the intro played a little bit again, but here we go. So I think I speak for everyone who was even peripherally associated with Boole in that we're really going to miss him. And things just won't be the same going forward without him. And yeah. But anyway, we're here for Kent with Bent, and that's what we're going to be doing. We got creation myths in here, and we got Icarus and Luca, Red Whale, Covert Cuttlefish. How's it going, everybody? So yeah, we're gonna now switch to something that has a little bit more levity. We got Kent Hovind saying ridiculous, stupid stuff. We got Bent is back with us. So yeah, because last week couldn't make it, so we did Kent without Bent. Yeah, now you know why people watch. Exactly. Oh, Sphincter of Doom, our co-host from last week, is here. With his monocle. No more tetrapod for him. At the monocle. So let's see. We have a drinking game here at Kent with Bent that we play. We don't recommend that you play it. However, you may if you want to. We here at Kent with Bent take no responsibility for any damage that you cause to yourself or others. Let's see. So the first rule is we drink whenever Kent Hovind gets something. Bent isn't muted. Watch. Say something, Bent.
What?
Yeah, see?
Am I muted?
No.
I don't think I can hear me.
I can hear you too. And that's all it takes. If I can hear you, they can hear you, right? That's totally how it works.
I don't know. Maybe.
That's not how it works.
Maybe. Who knows?
But anyway, so the first one is we take a drink whenever Kent gets something right that he isn't just quoting, right? So he has to actually know the correct information himself. It can't just be that, you read a quote from a book. So, let's see. The second one is we drink whenever it's just so stupid that we just kind of have to. Because it is often that. We also drink whenever...
Be a lot of that.
Yeah, there might.
Be a lot of
yeah.
For me.
We also drink whenever Kent Hovind tells a joke that just falls flat. We also introduce some randomness, although it's not always as random as we would like you to think. But whenever Godzilla or Mothra come by, which I will ask Bent to demonstrate. There you go.
Yay.
Take a drink for Godzilla coming over. Now that also extends to if you're a channel member, which you can join at the link below. You can send emojis specifically from the channel in a super chat. If you do that, that counts because if it's either the Godzilla or the Mothra emoji, that counts as a drink trigger. So I'm not going to let you make me drink for nothing. But if you want to pay for the privilege, you may get me to drink that way. Let's see. And the last one, that it doesn't usually come up, but if one of us makes a prediction about where Kent is going, and it usually has to be that he's going to go to the stupidest place that you wouldn't think even Kent would go to, we get that right, take a drink for that. And yes, Icarus has
been right. I've never gotten a prediction right.
Icarus has
done
just
a lot wrong,
shown all of the emojis. Yep, those are in fact. We get the top hat.
Super chat it though.
Well, yeah, we get this top hat, the Ceratosaurus, I call that just the tetrapod. The top hat. We've got Kent. We've got a monocle. We've got the Goblin. We've got Godzilla. We've got Mothra. So also, I'm going to point out we were talking about Bool earlier. We had a minute of silence for him, but throughout the stream, I'm going to occasionally. Oh, that is the wrong one. I'm going to be getting a link to the fundraiser that is currently to help support costs like getting the body back to Bool's family, rehousing his service dog, paying for actual funeral expenses and stuff like that. So there is a GoFundMe there that is set up. It was set up by one of the channels that he produced for, and I have been told that receipts will be published. So there you go. I mean, that's all I can say is we're being told that receipts will be published, and it's by someone who has published receipts before. So, if you want to, feel free to donate there. Thank you if you do. And now let's get into this Ken Hovind. So here we go. Oh, to recap, last time he was talking about the evolution of sex, and allegedly his debate partner had said that sex evolved because it's efficient. And Kent said, well, that doesn't explain it. And I actually do agree with Kent. So that's where we left off.
And if you read the critics on the website that criticize me, their answers are hilarious. Somehow they think because I talked, I answered the question.
Oh, and we had a quick question. Do I have another emoji slot by now? No, I need more people to join. I think I've been 3 away for quite a while now. So if you want to get me a new emoji, I already have some recommendations that people have given me. So feel free. I think it starts at $1.99 a month is where it starts. So there you go. Oh, and also it does get you access to the patron and member only Discord, early access to most videos, not all, as well as if you go at the $5 or higher tier, you get added to the credits. And if you're at the $20 or higher tier, I make sure to say your name out loud at the credits.
Yeah. I had students like that when I was in school. You ask them an essay question, they could write 6 pages and not say a word. How many of you have done that to your teacher yourself, okay? When you don't know the answer, you blitz them with a lot of words, right? Eric, you did that a few times, I'm sure, right?
Well, that counts as a joke that didn't land because only Kent laughed. Oh, and apparently his debate partner was an anthropologist, so it's an understandable mistake to make. Yeah, I think I remember that. Yeah, like, ask the anthropologist about the evolution of sex. It's like, that's not who you ask about that.
Been there, done that. Read through the scoffers' letters and their answers, and it's just like, they're just blowing.
What?
They're not answering. They're just saying to hear themselves, they're just talking to hear themselves talk. And it's hilarious.
Just because you don't understand what they're saying doesn't mean they're not answering.
Right. See, the great thing is he could just pick out particular things that they say and point out why it's wrong. But instead,
give
he's
an example, Kent.
Right.
Give one example.
Right.
One.
Well, it's like
If you're talking about a peer-reviewed scientific paper. Example.
I just talked to G-Man, and he was like, he asked, what was the question? It was like, what dating method do they use to date these fossils? And I'm like, well, which fossils? It depends, right? Like, I can't just answer that question.
Yeah.
And I could not, for the life of me, get him to pick either a fossil or just a category of fossils, or give a hypothetical example and ask how it would be dated. Like, it just couldn't. was like, all right, well, whatever. I just give up at this point because like.
Could you just be like, well, if it was this type of fossil, it would be this and this.
Right.
If it were this, it would be that.
And it's the same thing here with Kent. Yeah, he could just say, here are some of the arguments they use. Here's why I think they're dumb. But no, he just says, oh, they just don't say anything.
The scoffers write papers that don't say anything.
Yeah, I'm sure they do say something.
Well, when somebody says, who did Cain?
I was going to say, when I read those
Oh,
papers, when I read those papers, I don't understand most of it, depending on what I'm reading. So, at least I know I'm not understanding it. Kent just thinks, "Oh, this makes no sense, therefore it's stupid."
Yeah.
No, Kent, it doesn't make sense because
you don't understand it.
Stupid.
Right.
No, I don't want to say Kent's stupid, but like he doesn't know enough to know that he doesn't know enough about the topic. Like that's why the answers make no sense to him.
Now this isn't
he's making it up, but I assume that he's actually.
This is a little bit of an inside joke for a few of the people here. But do you think that Kent would describe a battery as a literal bucket of electrons that you pump electrons into to charge?
I don't know. He might.
You might. Okay.
He might not.
All right.
I don't know.
Mary, I first point out the folly of what they believe. And now the problem I have looks very small. Let's put it in perspective. Compared to your problem, everything came from a rock.
No.
And that's an expression that drives them nuts. I use that all the time. I asked the guy last debate I was in wherever it was, a couple weeks ago. I said, would you please just answer a question for me? Do you believe we came from a rock?
No.
He talked for 5 or 10 minutes, did not answer the question. I said,
he probably was saying where he thinks we came from, and all the descriptions were not using the word rock because we didn't come from a rock. And Ken's thinking, he's not saying rock, so he must not be answering the question.
Yeah, it's...
Or he's making it up right now as he's telling the story. Could be that too.
One of the problems is that Kent likes to ask these yes or no questions that in order to really answer, and in a meaningful way to actually, you have to give more than just a yes or no answer. So the quick answer...
too, by the way.
Yeah.
I do that too.
Well, the thing is,
I don't know if it's a flaw or whatever, but sometimes I just want a yes or a no answer.
One of the things is...
I get mad.
I mean, that can happen, but like if the question is, do you think we came from rock? The answer is no, ultimately, but it's like no with caveats, because there are things that, the rocks were important for various things, like they formed the substrate on which abiogenesis likely happened, and some of the minerals and metals that were dissolved in the rocks that later washed out were important chemical contributors to life. So, like, no, it doesn't capture the entirety of the answer. But here we go.
Monk Mayfair made a good comment. Is dirt not technically ground down rock? So creationists believe we were made from rocks.
That is accurate, and I've actually made that point to a few.
I've heard that point made before,
and it's yeah,
it's a good one, I think.
All that stuff you said, but would you please answer my question now? Do you? I just want a yes or no. Do you believe we came from a rock? He went off and talked for 10 or 15 more minutes. I said, oh, that's interesting. Now let's go back to the question. Do you believe we came from a rock?
Things that I don't think happened. I don't think this ever happened.
Yeah.
Finally, he said, yes, I do. That's all I want to know. Why did it take you 20 minutes to tell me that? Just admit it. If you believe it came from a rock, that's fine. Be proud of it. Put a rock in a picture frame. Great grandpa. Family tree.
That was another drink that didn't land.
Make a slide. Yes, there's great grandpa. The Bible teaches, and we'll take a
Kent saying that they teach we came from a rock when if he literally believes the Bible, he thinks we came from dirt. Like, really, what's the difference at that point, Kent? What is Kent trying to say? We didn't come from a rock. We came from God.
Via dirt.
The Bible says via dirt. So. The absurd thing is that only Kent, as far as I know, gives the argument you think we came from a rock. Does anyone else actually give that? Any other larger creation organizations?
I don't
Does Eric Hovind even say that? I don't know.
You get something, I think, a little bit like that from AIG, but it's certainly not a big talking point. But also we have for $5 from Sphincter of Doom, shower thoughts are kinds of thoughts, so they must be real. Kenthoven, probably. Yeah, we talked about that last week, that some of these conversations that Kent says he remembers were probably just the kinds of conversations that you go over in the shower on your own. And he's like, yeah. And then he just kind of forgets that was just a shower thought, and instead he just turns it into a memory.
It's a false memory.
Yeah.
Could be.
All right. Did you have anything else, or should we keep going?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Break after this. Adam lived after he begat Seth 800 years and begat sons and daughters.
Okay.
Now tell me, how many kids could you have in 800 years?
I mean, sperm count goes down through your life, so by the time you get to your 80s, it's actually pretty hard, even if your partner is very fertile, to actually have kids. That's why it was newsworthy when Strom Thurmond had impregnated his... Is it a girlfriend, or were they actually married? I don't know. I didn't follow too closely the sort of details of Strom Thurmond, but let's just say this: there was a reason that his nickname was Sperm Thurmond, because it was remarkable that he was still having kids into his 80s.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, so like at 800, you probably would be out of actual viable swimmers. So you probably couldn't have very many more than you could at 80. Now, I will say this. Reproduction is heavily limited in human society by the female reproductive cycle, not the male. So, how many children could a male beget over the course of his entire reproductive career if he has essentially infinite available and fertile female partners? Well, I mean, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 a day. But if we're assuming a monogamous pairing with Eve, then you could probably do one every 10-ish months for maybe 30 years. So we might be able to get to 30 or 40. Yeah.
Maybe. That's a lot.
Oh, look, I'm not saying that I envy Eve in this situation.
Hey, twins, maybe. You never know. So
no, that's true. So maybe I'll push it to say this. If we assume monogamy, at the outside, Eve might be able to get to 40 children.
That's so much, dude.
It is.
I know this is like the way high-end possibility, but
right,
that's a lot.
Yeah.
Several, right? So, in the first generation, they married sisters. Here's my reasons I give, and you might want to learn these reasons. This would be a good quiz question, too. This stops them every time.
Oh, we got confirmation from Ugly German Truth that Strom Thurmond was in fact married to the mother of those 4 children, and he was 45 years older than she was.
Holy moly!
Like, I'm not a big believer in like, oh no, there's 2, like you're 10 years, but like 45. I'm like, what do you even have in common with someone 45 years younger than you are?
I've mentioned before on this channel I'm 39 years old. That would be like if whoever I get married to isn't born for another 6 years.
That'd be so weird.
That is so weird to think about. That is crazy.
Hey, you know what? She was an adult. She can do whatever she wants.
You know what, though? Maybe I could find a woman 45 years older than me.
You look into that. Maybe there's a nursing home dating app.
She might be fertile. She might not. I don't know.
Probably not. There might be nursing home dating apps. I don't know. The single people at nursing homes, man.
They had to marry sisters. In the first place, there's no other choice.
I just love that we unpause for they had to marry sisters. That's just great. I'm going to drink for it. Yeah, have fun with that, Kent.
I mean, isn't that an obvious answer? There's nobody else available. Secondly, who would you report him to? You going to turn him into the police? Well, the policeman married his sister too. I mean, that's all there is.
Okay, so those jokes kind of landed, but I also I'm going to take a drink for the idea that the reason that things are unwise to do is simply because you might be reported to the police. Like, okay, so I'm going to take a quick drink and then explain. So here's the thing. Both practicality and morality are not intrinsically linked to legality, right? If the government passed a law making it illegal to breathe, that doesn't mean that people would stop breathing or that they should, right? And if you lived in a country where, say, murder wasn't illegal, that doesn't mean that you should go murder people. And it doesn't even mean that most people would. there are reasons independent of legality to not do things. So, for instance, marrying your siblings is a bad idea regardless of legality because it causes problems with your offspring. Because as a result of very, very limited genetic mixing, you're very likely to get offspring who are homozygous for fairly serious genetic diseases. Because most people carry recessive alleles for several very serious genetic diseases. The reason most people don't get them is because generally they're not dominant. Not because genetic diseases have a higher chance when the mutation occurs of being dominant or recessive. What actually is happening is that dominant serious genetic problems tend to be selected out very quickly by natural selection. So, for instance, if you have a dominant mutation that says that you're not going to make it past 10, well, guess what? That mutation isn't sticking around in the gene pool.
Right.
But if you have a recessive mutation that if you had a homozygous copy of that allele would mean you didn't make it past 10, well, guess what? That can propagate fairly easily. Now, it's not going to fix or anything because it couldn't. It's not even going to become terribly prominent. But it can fly under the radar as long as you're reproducing with people sufficiently distantly related to you. So that's why it's a bad idea. And the fact is that unless we're going to claim that Adam had some anomalously high amount of genetic diversity inside him, like maybe he was, I don't know, like had like instead of having 46 chromosomes, he had like, was it like 92 or something? Maybe he's got just extra chromosomes coming out of his ears.
I don't.
But yeah, unless we're going to make that kind of claim, then no, you couldn't actually have done this for more than, say, 1 or 2 generations. Because we can assume maybe, okay, so God creates Adam without any genetic diseases. Okay, but genetic diseases are going to start cropping up in the first couple generations. So, yeah. For the first generation, yeah, maybe that's fine. Come on. Oh, am I hitting the wrong... I hit the wrong thing. Damn. Oh, well.
There's no other choice.
Sorry.
I mean, isn't that an obvious answer? There's nobody else available. Secondly, who would you report him to? You going to turn him into the police? Well, the policeman married his sister too. I mean, that's all there is. Nobody would have thought anything about it, would they? It's normal.
Yes, I suppose in a situation where we're actually starting with a human population size of 2, that yes, that would have seemed normal. That doesn't mean it wouldn't have been a problem.
Today, of course, you know, the idea of marrying sisters, oh wow, it's horrible, it's terrible. Well, somebody's going to marry your sister, and they're going to think it's great.
Someone did marry my sister. I'm pretty sure he thinks it's great. Hope so.
Same.
You probably married somebody's sister, right? So, there's no other choice. They would not have thought it's wrong.
That was a joke that fell flat. I'm going to drink.
Could be actually 2 answers. You wouldn't have anybody to report them to. Thirdly, there were no laws against it. Atheists get all upset and say, well, that's incest and that's against the law. Well, now, wait a minute. When was that law given?
No one is upset because it's illegal. Like, I love this. You're completely reversing the cause and effect here, right? We want things to be illegal because they're bad ideas. They're things that shouldn't be done. So we try to make them illegal. Things aren't bad to do because they are illegal. You got the cause and effect here directly reversed. Now, does the law sometimes get it wrong? Yes, it does. But the ideal is that bad thing, therefore illegal. Not illegal, therefore bad thing. And the thing is that as someone who is, at the time he's recording this, breaking numerous federal laws, you'd think right. Kent might not go for the legal positivism.
Well, never underestimate what Kent Hovind can say.
I know. It's terrible. Oh, man.
Moses gave the law right here. 1500 BC, roughly, when Moses lived. That's well after the creation. Now, in almost every country, they have a legal concept, and we call it ex post facto here in America. You cannot pass a law and then fine somebody for breaking the law before it was passed.
Okay.
Let's suppose you're out spitting on the sidewalk and somebody says, we ought to make a law about that. Okay, so they pass a law, you can't spit on the sidewalk. Then they come arrest you because you did it last week. Ex post facto. It's a Latin for something. I don't know what it is, but it means after the fact.
That's literally what it means, Kent. I don't know what it means, but it's after the fact. It's ex from, post after, facto, fact, or happening.
Hey, he got it right. I'll drink to it.
You know what? Yeah, you know what?
He
Sure,
he
Kent.
just wasn't confident in himself. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, even
Sure.
though I probably know better. That's just my role here. Come on, I gotta be.
No,
I gotta
that's
give him the
fair.
benefit of the doubt.
Look, I just like the idea that he's like, I don't know what it means, but here's the translation. Like,
But
yeah,
here's
that is
exactly what it means.
right. It's just great. Oh,
Well, he
man.
figured it out.
Actually,
Figured it out
that
real quick,
that
very fast.
what was it? Yesterday, I understood some spoken Arabic, and then I got annoyed when someone told, or when the person who was speaking told me what it meant. I was like, shut up! I know what it means. Let's continue with your story. But then I realized, oh yes, not everyone who watches this YouTube channel speaks any Arabic at all. Most of them probably speak none because it's an English language channel. So yeah, you know.
Gotta say, man, you're kind of a nerd.
Because
I like you, but you're kind of a nerd.
Because I know some
For
Arabic.
Banator. That's why.
Oh well.
It's just the Arabic.
Shukran.
Sorry, man. I apologize.
No. Shukran means thank you.
Oh, you're rocking. That's what I meant to say.
All right, here we go.
You can't pass a law and fine somebody for something they did before the law was in effect.
I don't disagree,
And that's
Kent.
what they're trying to do here. They're trying to say, see, it's
No. Oh, I'm going to take a drink. That's not what anyone's doing. No one is saying that Abraham should be put in jail for marrying his sister. What they're saying is it was a stupid idea for Abraham to marry his sister. That's
There's a difference.
the whole point. Although I guess it was Abram who married his sister, because I guess, that was before his name was changed to Abraham. You know what? Who cares? Everyone knows him as Abraham. No one knows him as Abram.
I don't care. I don't care.
Anyway. But yeah, no one is trying to go back in time and apply some kind of legal penalty. We're pointing out the problems with
Is
inbreeding.
Kent just thinking a lot about the legal aspect because he knows he's breaking a bunch of laws right now?
Ooh,
So
like
that's
this
just
is
where he's focused.
like he
on it?
can't get away from the legalistic because like it's on his
So
mind
he's
all the
just
time.
trying. Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I doubt it, but maybe.
Maybe.
Look, I'm just asking questions.
Look, I'm just asking questions. Kent, it would be his choice to answer that type of question, and then it'd be up to the listeners to decide. Not decide, but do you believe he's telling the truth or not? You have to figure that out. So,
Yeah. I personally don't think that Kent is very honest, but whatever.
yeah.
against the law to marry sisters. Cain married his sister, therefore he broke the law.
Nope, that's not what anyone is
What, you
arguing.
numbskull?
Yes, that would be a numbskull
Think
argument.
about it, okay? There weren't any laws against it. See, they didn't need any laws against it. When the race was pure, there were no...
And that's when somebody went full National Socialist. When the race was pure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I could see that. I don't think that's his intent. But,
it's not, but it's the rhetoric he's using.
Yeah.
I'm just going to drink for how bad the optics are on that phrase.
They are really bad optics, but I think
Yeah.
he means like mutation-wise and.
I agree, but
Well,
that never put it that way.
There's still mutation, but
What you say is something like, back when there were
Trying
no
to give Kent the
genetic
benefit of the
diseases.
doubt.
Yeah. Like, don't say, yeah.
No defective genes, no defective chromosomes.
Yeah, that is where he's going.
You would not have any deformed children.
Hey, you know what? That means a successful prediction
Everything
for Beth.
about
We
you
take a
is
drink.
inherited.
Hey,
Even having
it wasn't
children is
wrong.
hereditary.
Of course he wanted to get
If your parents don't have any, you won't either. That's been
Hey,
proven.
maybe you want to get
No.
someone after that.
I'm taking another drink because he just said,
Oh.
if your parents don't have any bad mutations, you won't either. No, because you might have the mutation. You might be the first one. I'm taking a drink because that's how that works. By the way, at this point, he was not in Alabama. He was in Florida, and he's also not even a Floridian. He actually grew up in somewhere up north. I think it was Pennsylvania or something like that. Like he's from a northern state. He moved to Florida later in life.
In laboratory tests, folks. So there's not a problem at all. See, the average human being, you have 46 chromosomes, and a chromosome, if you took a ladder about from here to Chicago, that'd be a long ladder, and you twisted it up, just start twisting the end, make it like a corkscrew. Each of the rungs of the ladder is called a gene.
Drink.
Oh my gosh. What?
Creation myths, I hope you're here for this.
Oh man, did he just say what I think he said?
He just said each rung of the ladder is called a gene.
Is he talking about the double helix? Please let me talk.
That's what he's talking about. And he thinks that every codon pair is a gene. So we're gonna have to drink a lot for this section here. Trust me. And RJ, if Creation Myths isn't here,
I can't
get him here for this.
I can't, but we're
gonna keep going. It's gonna get worse, I promise.
Oh my gosh.
The entire ladder is called a chromosome. It's called the double helix, and it gets pretty complicated in biology. But basically, you got this long ladder that's twisted up. Each of the rungs of the ladder is a gene. You can look up chromosome in any biology textbook.
There's some kinds of stupid you just can't fix.
Each of these genes does different things. You've probably got a whole section right here of the gene code that's going to determine
For those
what
who don't know, that is not what a gene is, just in case. Because we haven't actually made that clear yet about reciting it. That is not even close. That is way, way, way wrong.
What Kent is describing is a base pair. Base pairs go into triplets to make a codon. And a group of codons might be a gene, but isn't always. My goodness. So here, we're going to keep going, but there's going to be a lot of drinking. We might have to take an early intermission.
Pair you have. It's like the code in a computer. It's a computer code, okay? Now, when you get married, you and the husband or wife are going to each contribute half of a chromosome to the baby.
Drink.
It is absolutely beyond comprehension.
Half of a chromosome.
That's true.
It
is absolutely beyond comprehension.
Does that mean we drink again for that one?
That is true.
Okay. So, by the way, you don't contribute a half a chromosome. Each parent contributes one set of the paired chromosomes because you have 46 chromosomes, which come in 23 pairs. And each parent provides one half of that whole set. I love the Creation Myths is here for this. Creation Myths, in case you don't know, is a geneticist who specialized in viral genetics for his doctoral thesis, and also is currently a professor at Rutgers teaching, I think it's Bio 101, I want to say. Correct me if I'm wrong, sorry, Dan. So here we go.
You can get a ladder.
Wait, hold on. I just want to say, any 5-year-old would think, and then you can click play.
Oh, any 5-year-old would think.
Here to Chicago, that's twisted. It breaks in half all the way down the middle, unwinds itself, finds the one coming from the husband or wife, and winds itself back together.
Drink again.
I'm just picturing a 5-year-old saying this, and it's perfect.
Oh my goodness.
Incredible. There isn't anybody on the planet who has a clue how this can happen.
That's because it couldn't. It's literally impossible. I'm going to take another drink, because that was both hilarious and true.
That Kent doesn't. Look, there's a lot about science that I don't understand, okay? So I'm not trying to act like I know all this stuff way more than Kent, but I know that Kent is very, very, very wrong on this. And I don't go around teaching stuff that I'm not 100% sure that I would know, and even then I don't teach. Anyway, but like, look, this is really wrong, and
he doesn't have to get this wrong.
He taught science for how long in high school? Is this what he's teaching kids?
He said it was for like
so
decade.
Long. I never took my drink I was supposed to drink.
Oh my goodness. There's actually a separate video that's just this section of this talk. And Dead Kennedy in Space did the narration because I was too sick.
Did Kent ever say, by the way, that I was wrong when I did this?
As far as I know, he's made no retraction. But so in
he's
case
been called out on this, right? Like,
I mean, I at least have. I think Thunderfoot has made a video about this. I don't think Arn Ra has, but okay. So for those of you who don't know, you cannot take one side of the quote-unquote ladder and combine it with the other side from another person's chromosome, because each base pair, or each nucleotide has to go with a corresponding nucleotide, right? So there's only one that it can pair with, and since two chromosomes aren't going to have the same base pairs at each locus, you can't actually completely join them up. In fact, this was taken advantage of in early studies on relatedness using genetic material. So what they would do early on is you would actually heat up samples of DNA, right? And so when you do that, you actually can get breakage to happen along the length of the DNA chain. And then as you cool it down, they'll find close but not perfect matches, right? And then when you heat them back up, how fast or how long it takes for them to break apart again can actually tell you something about how closely related they are. So what you could do is you could take, like, say, a donkey, a sample of, say, donkey DNA and horse DNA, right? Heat them up until they disassociate, cool them back down, and then wait to see how long it takes for them to disassociate again. The fact that they are disassociating at lower temperatures than it first took means that that's because they couldn't perfectly match up. And for $5, Sphincter of Doom says, incredible means credible. What a country. Kent Hovind, basically. Yeah. And so that's... You literally can't do this. The only chromosome that you could actually do this with would be your own identical chromosome. But let's keep going.
When this ladder gets back together, suppose you have contributed genetic information for blonde hair. Your wife has contributed a section of genetic information for red hair. One of those is going to be dominant, and the kid's going to be born with whichever is the most dominant. And you get into Mendel's laws of, dominant genes and recessive genes and all that kind of stuff. But there is scientists estimate that probably of the billions of genes you have, about 3,500 of them are defective.
I have no idea if those numbers are accurate. But whatever. Oh, when they separate, it's called denaturing.
How do they determine
there you go.
if a gene is defective? Is it based on other genes in other animals?
If it causes a pathological... Like, if you're homozygous for a particular allele, and it causes a pathological... So, like, if
you have, like, cystic fibrosis or something...
or progeria or something.
That gene is defective in that. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking of it in a different way. But still, yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't know if those numbers are accurate or not. They might be.
I don't think it's billions of genes. I would be very surprised. Well, the thing is, okay, I actually kind of want to drink for this.
Yeah.
Because Kent Hovind is still conflating genes and base pairs. Billions of base pairs, that's probably fair. Billions of genes? No.
I don't remember all of those numbers. I learned that a long time ago, and I never had to remember it, so I can't remember anymore.
I mean, are there billions of base pairs? Yeah. Are there billions of genes? No. But Kent seems to think that each base pair is a gene, so...
You got about 3,500 defective genes in your gene pool.
Yeah.
And 3,500 out of billions is insignificant, okay? It's a 0.00001% or something like that. It's a very small number. But if you marry somebody who's very closely related to you, like a first cousin, or a niece, or your aunt, there is a good chance that the same defective genes exist in her that exist in you.
Wait, hold on. I'm reading the chat here and I missed something from RJ. So Kent has denatured from several wives, hasn't he?
Oh, you know what? Cheers,
I had to
RJ.
say that was really good, RJ.
Cheers, RJ. I'm taking a drink on that one.
That's good. Sorry, go ahead.
Will have something deformed on the child. Which is why, in almost every state, it is against the law to marry closer than a first cousin. I believe 3 states still allow first cousin marriages.
That's actually more than that. This came up in a discussion I was having like a couple months ago, and so I looked into it. And it's actually the minority of states where it's actually illegal to marry a first cousin. Most states, it's either not banned or it's legal with a waiver. And I actually found out that my home state of Massachusetts, which you don't normally associate with things like, marrying cousins and things to do with Alabama, it's actually not illegal to marry your first cousin in Massachusetts. So, there you go. And also, of course, if you marry your first cousin in one state, your marriage license remains valid in all other states. So, it's just basically not illegal to marry your first cousin in the United States, but because most people in the United States come from cultures where historically there's been a taboo against first cousin marriage, it tends not to happen. There you go.
Almost all states, it has to be at least a second cousin or farther distant related.
What about first cousin once removed?
Because you're going to probably end up with something deformed. Either low IQ. Now,
I still think
happened
the statistical chances of those mutations are still pretty low. They're just much, much higher than they would be.
Yeah,
from completely unrelated.
If your family doesn't have much history of inbreeding, first cousin pairings usually don't produce anything terrible. Like, you do have a significantly higher chance.
The chances of it, though.
Oh, yeah. But the chances are still very low of your offspring actually having any serious problems. Now, if your family has a history of close kinship marriages, then it becomes a problem.
Or of, certain genetic disorders.
Yeah. But generally speaking, yeah. It is the case that a first cousin marriage in most lineages is actually not likely to result in any serious problems with the offspring right then and there. Usually you get, like you take a look at the Habsburgs, right? It took quite a while for them to become really weird mutants. But they did, because they just kept marrying each other.
Now, in Europe years ago, they had to marry royalty.
No, he's going to talk about it.
Well, sometimes the only royalty available is your sister.
No, Europeans were not doing that. I'm taking a history drink. Like, if we're talking ancient Egypt, then sure, Kent, there were a lot of sibling marriages in ancient Egypt among the royalty. But no, Europe was usually first cousins or second cousins. Europe did not have a history of marrying sisters even among royalty, or, siblings. Or the Ptolemies, but that's the thing, the Ptolemies were just Greek-descended pharaohs. So,
And since they want to pass on the royal line, they would marry their sister or their aunt or their niece or their first cousin. And they ended up with some strange things. 6 fingers was very common. One of the queens, I think it was Queen of Europe, or England or something.
It's time.
Queen of Europe. I mean, he corrected it, but still, he said it.
Had special dresses designed with a V coming down to cover her hand because she had 6 fingers and was embarrassed by it.
I have no
All
idea
of her dresses
true.
had long sleeves with a V coming down. Some of the kings died of hemophilia. Hemophiliacs, they bleed to death. You cut them a little bit and they bleed.
Hey, that's accurate. Hemophilia is actually fairly prominent in a number of European royal lines, so take a drink for that.
You bruise them and they bleed internally, bleed to death. That's hemophilia. That's oftentimes from inbreeding. We had a little girl that rode our bus in Illinois when I drove a bus up there, at a church bus. Her mother and her father were brother and sister. 9-year-old boy raped his 8-year-old sister.
Well, there goes monetization on this video. Thanks, Kent.
She got pregnant. The child rode the bus.
Also, I'm just going to say that those ages don't really add up. I feel like that's unlikely, but whatever.
Came to our church, got saved. Sweet little girl. But she died when she was 12 or 13 years old of sickle cell anemia. She was sick most of her life and finally died at age 13. Close marriages like that often end in disaster today, but that would not be the case when the race was pure.
He said it again. Oh, first, I really hate that he keeps using that phrase. I really, really do. I know why he's doing it, but it doesn't make it any better. So I'm taking a drink. But here's the thing, though. it is true that if we assume that both Adam and Eve were created with maximum heterozygosity both internally and between each other, right? So we have an actual effective population size of 2 with 2 individuals. Great. Okay. Then for the first few generations, yeah, it's unlikely that there's going to be a problem. But problems will arise very quickly if you keep marrying sisters and brothers together. And the thing is that you're in a situation where you're expecting this to happen for generations. Look, even Abram, who's post-flood, or Abraham, whatever, married a sister. In the Bible, sibling marriages happen for a long time, apparently. And it definitely would have been a problem to have sibling marriages as a common thing by the time we get to Abraham.
So it's not a problem at all, actually, for several generations. Even today, in the animal world, frequently cats will breed back to somebody in their own family. And sometimes you see cats that are 6 toes or 7 toes. You ever seen those before? Or a little bit schizo. Yeah.
Oh, goodness, Kent. Oh, might be the cringiest thing I've ever heard. But I will say this, polydactyly among cats is actually fairly common. That is a thing. But it's also not exactly like the worst thing that ever happened.
Why is it common among cats?
Actually, I think it's just because it's not terribly detrimental. So like, there's not a huge selection pressure against the alleles that produce polydactyly in cats. So it's actually fairly common to get a cat who, on one or a few paws, I guess, has 6 or 7 fingers, or even more in some cases. I've seen cats with up to 9. It just happens, and they get on just fine for the most part. So there's not a huge selection pressure against it.
All cats are schizo, in my opinion, but some are more than others, And that's oftentimes from inbreeding. Same thing with dogs. When they try to get a hybrid dog, they keep breeding close to the bloodline to get a purebred Chihuahua or something. Man, they're goofy. They're nervous. They're jittery. Something's wrong with them.
That's true. I'm going to take a drink.
Chihuahuas
I have 2 Chihuahuas, and they're not purebred, and that's how Chihuahuas are.
So I'm going to take a drink. Kent, you're right. Chihuahuas are a bit jittery, and that is probably partly due to inbreeding. Drink for all cats are schizo, which I really hate saying, but sure. I have to start leaving the schizo thing alone because I have to start leaving it alone now. We're going to keep going. We're not going to talk about that anymore.
That's from the close inbreeding, and that would not be a problem here, but it is a problem today. Okay, let's give a 4th reason why it's not a problem to marry sisters.
Do we really need a 4th reason to defend incest?
Well, the first 3 aren't any good, so let's try a 4th one.
Okay.
Adam married his rib. Didn't he? People say you can't marry sisters because of genetic similarity. I say Adam married his rib.
So Kent is reducing effective population size to 1. Good to know. That's good to know. So apparently,
I guess he saved the funniest, most hilariously bad reason for last.
So this actually gives us an effective population size of just under 1. Because Eve would have had to have the same X chromosome doubled that would have been the same as Adam's 1 X chromosome. So now we only have 1 X chromosome, 1 Y chromosome, and 2 max for every other chromosome.
How many rib chromosomes are there, though?
As it turns out,
Don't forget that one.
Ribs still have 46 chromosomes. So
how many genes are there in a rib chromosome? How many rungs on its ladder, on the rib ladder?
Oh my goodness.
Wait, if Adam married his rib, who did the ceremony? And then who were the witnesses?
Oh, I guess God?
That's why there's Jesus and the Holy Spirit. You had to have some witnesses.
Oh, okay, there you go. So I love that Kent is making the entire problem of human genetic diversity wrong by here implying that Eve was essentially a clone except for the doubled X chromosome rather than having a Y. I just love that. Because normal creationism, you get like, oh hey, we have created heterozygosity. We get a effective population size of 2. That's so big. And now Kent's here's like, well, what if it were slightly less than that? What if it were just one, basically? What if the whole, actually slightly less than one? What if effective population size was like 0.98 or something? Yeah, no, Kent, that's bad. Even if there are no genetic diseases, that's bad.
Not a problem at all in the first generation. They
Okay,
would have
sure.
had identical gene pool. Now, some have argued, well, how do you get the 4 different blood types? You know, A, B, AB, and type O. There's a great article in Creation magazine
Yeah, forget positive or negative.
about that, the 4 different blood types, and how they could have easily arisen.
Those are just
from Adam
RH
and Eve.
factors anyway.
If you want to go get Creation magazine in answersingenesis.org is the website, or you can get it, or you can call 800-350-3232 and get Creation magazine. It only comes out 4 times a year, and it's like $22 a year. So it's $5.50 an issue, but it's just an awesome magazine to get and devour on the creation subject. There's a few things I argue with him
Stop advertising for Ken Ham.
about. I disagree with him on a couple things, and I've tried to tell him that I don't want to hear my opinion for some reason. But I still recommend him anyway. It's a good
Yeah,
magazine.
why?
Yeah, I know. I love how much all the other creationists don't want to touch Kent Hovind with like a 10-cubit pole.
Yeah.
So there's not a problem marrying sisters in the first generation. There's some things you will not notice reading your Bible. I read the Bible, I don't know how many times, 60 or 80 times now, but
Press X to doubt.
some things you don't notice until you graph it out, like I've done in this chart, this longevity chart. When you graph it out, all of a sudden you say, wow, I never saw that before. For instance, you will not notice until you graph it out that Adam lived long enough to know Lamech. Noah's father knew Adam for 56 years. Look at the seminar notebook graph there, or same thing here, but if you look in your book, it's just amazing when all of a sudden you realize how many generations back did Noah actually have an opportunity to meet? How many of you met your grandparents? How many of you have actually met your great-grandparent?
I met one of them.
Nope. I only met 2 of my grandparents. The other 2 were. Apparently, I did meet a third one, but I don't remember. I was too young.
Yeah, so...
Passed away.
Oh, there's Mothra. So I met... If we're talking grandparents that I remember, 2. Grandparents that I actually was alive at the same time as, 3. Great-grandparents, 1. That's what I got.
None for me.
I currently have 1 remaining grandparent, and I mean, is remaining in a technical sense. So.
Has anybody ever actually met your great-great-grandparents?
No.
Nobody in the room.
I mean, my grandfather was pretty great. Does that count?
No.
No, I know it doesn't count.
Oh,
Okay,
there's
Noah.
Mothra again.
He could have known Methuselah, his grandfather. Couldn't have known Enoch because he left early. Okay, but then he could have known Jared. That would be his great-great-grandfather. That's 2 generations. He could have known Mahalalel. That's his great-great-great-grandfather. Canaan and Enos. He would have missed Seth, but he could have known his great-great-great-great-great-grandfather.
Okay. I mean, great, but you haven't demonstrated that any of this is true, so I don't really care, but sure, whatever.
I bet they could have told a few stories, Can you imagine Adam being able to tell his kids and grandkids and great-grandkids what it was like in the Garden of Eden? Imagine a family reunion back in those days. Okay, everybody hop on the camel. We're going to go visit great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather Adam. And he's going to tell us what it was like in the Garden of Eden.
I want to point out that according to most creationist stories, that the camelids, which are a family, would have been the original created kind. And so, despite the fact that we're seeing Kent display a Bactrian camel, that wouldn't have existed. So Kent Hovind can't get his own model right.
Before the first woman ate the first man out of house and home.
Ha 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 ha.
Or whatever happened back then. But
Oh wait, that was a joke that didn't land. I guess even back when Kent told this, even the creationists were like, oh, funny, sexism, yay.
she did eat and they were kicked out.
Oh, someone laughed.
Some people say, did Adam ever have a date with Eve? Well, most people think it might have been an apple, but
That was another joke that didn't land.
No,
How is
after
this?
that.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I immediately thought to myself, oh, he's going to tell a joke about fruit.
Right.
But like,
And it wasn't the worst delivery either. It's just like
yeah, it's just lame.
that one is, but it's lame.
the dates in the Bible add up to 6,000, and you don't catch some things until you graph it out. For instance, some people are getting these things and using them for placemats at their table when they have company over.
Weird.
So when he says
That
the
was
dates in
rather
the Bible, he doesn't actually mean dates. He means the ages of people,
Right.
right?
Yeah, because if it says, oh, you know,
'Cause there are no dates in the Bible at all, as far as I'm aware.
I don't think anything is identified with a year that we could pinpoint.
Or
There
did
are
they say like in the year of this king, in the 32nd year of that
there might be
king
a
or
few of
whatever?
those, but then one of the problems is that we don't have a great way to anchor those dates.
Right.
Like we can approximate them. That's one of the reasons why like you get people in doing history, especially ancient history, who will say things like, you know, in about 720 BC, give or take 30 years, this thing happened. It's because like we have approximate timelines for a lot of stuff, but
Conversation. We have them in laminated form, real heavy 10 mil lamination, expensive stuff, like a driver's license. But they're $5 a piece for the colored ones, and you can get them in laminated for placemats or something, or just hang on. Some people mount them on their wall in posters and frames and stuff like a picture. It really stirs a conversation. Like, what?
I'll be honest, if you gave me that as a placemat, I would just be like, well, that's weird, and then I would just continue on without whatever meal I was eating. I just don't get, no, whatever. Fine, you know what? If you want a Bible history graph placemat, you have fun with it.
I would walk up to it and be like, oh, it's just lines on paper, and then go back to it.
Hey, you know, the entire Bible is just lines on paper.
It's true. It is.
Oh, what is that? Some people try to teach that the Bible was handed down generation after generation after generation. You ever heard that before?
I don't even know
Look at
what
your
that
chart.
means.
I mean, it literally would have been, right? Like, each generation would be copying it and passing it down to the next one, right? What?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know what point he's trying to... Well, maybe he'll make the point.
Maybe he'll make it.
Is it possible that Adam knew Methuselah?
I mean,
Take a
if
look
they
at
had
your chart.
existed, then sure.
By several hundred years, right? Is it possible that Methuselah knew Shem, his great-grandson? They could have known each other for 100 years, right? Look how far Shem lived after the flood. Shem could have known Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So here you got Adam telling the story firsthand to Methuselah, Methuselah telling it to Shem, and Shem telling it to Abraham.
That's still generation after generation. What is even happening?
Right.
I'm gonna take a drink and then we're gonna take an intermission. And look, man, I don't even know what's happening at this point. So we're gonna go take an intermission, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna continue on. But I'll see you guys in just a bit.
I want to take a moment to talk about something serious. There is a problem facing late surviving non-avian dinosaurs in modern America. Hunting is very strictly regulated and only allowed at certain times of the year. This means that for much of the year we have to rely on farm-raised food, which means money. If you want to help a starving dinosaur, please consider donating on Patreon or buying from my merch store. Links are in the description. Please help. Dinosaurs all over YouTube are depending on you to help them through the hunting off-season.
Nani? Dare? Oh, Gojira desu ka? Hi, Gojira-san. Hi. All right, we are back, and I don't think that Bent is muted, so...
I don't think I'm muted either. But
Yeah.
there's no way of knowing. Although I have dogs that have been growling and barking a little bit. I think they hear neighbors. I can't hear, but during intermission I could hear neighbors talking or something. So I think that's what the deal is. But I'm gonna let my dog lick my hand because that'll help calm her down.
You know what I just realized, though? I poured a rum and coke, and I was intending to not use a caffeinated beverage, and I am now regretting my life choices. Because it's late. So, unfortunately what that might mean is that I might have to drink a little bit more alcohol after this to try to counteract all the caffeine. So, F in the chat for my sleep cycle. So, there we go. But we're gonna...
meant to be broken, right?
Oh, man. I've had the worst sleep cycle lately, too. Because, like... So, I had some insomnia a few nights ago. And then, recently, I had a power outage. So I went to sleep. But then the power came back on for, like, 30 seconds at, like, 2:30 a.m. And, like, everything started beeping at me. And, like my instant pot. And all the lights were on. And so for, like, 30 seconds, I'm like, noises and lights. And then, like, I go to sleep again, kind of. Except I don't really. And then the power comes back on again at, like, 5:30. And
Wait, so then it went out again?
It did. It only stayed on for like 30 seconds.
So it was on long enough to wake you up.
Right.
Just kidding.
It was on long enough just to make sure that I didn't actually get any real sleep.
Is your power company the United States Navy?
It might as well
that
be.
Sounds like a deployment thing.
I know.
Although actually, they would have woken you up at 2:30, and that's the beginning of your day now.
Oh yeah. So yeah,
well, you know, I told you privately before I forgot to do some labs for a doctor's appointment. I had like one day to do them, and I forgot to fast. So today I had to get up at 5 a.m. and go in.
Oh yeah.
They open up at 6 a.m. I was number 3. I was actually 30 minutes later than I wanted to be, but I was number 3.
Nice.
I hit one of the fingers, but yeah. So got my lab work in, but I'm very tired because of that. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, also, I agree with German Furman. 26 watching and only 24 likes. Yeah, hit that like button. It really does help. You can actually see if you look at, like, if you have access to YouTube analytics, a video with a high number of likes to views really does do better. But here we go.
And Isaac. And if anybody argues or questions their story, you go back and check with the source. He's still alive. I don't.
But if the source is Adam and you're Noah's grandson, you can't. So it's still generation to generation, Kent.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, let's go meet him. Come on, let's go get in the car. I'll take you right now.
Oh, that was a joke.
It's also interesting, if you read through the book of Genesis, if you get the Defender's Bible, Henry Morris's Defender's Bible is just awesome. We sell it to our ministry. You can get it through ICR. In Genesis chapter 2...
Ken, how much money?
I love how most...
Does it come with the snake oil?
Oh, goodness. We can't get into the snake oil thing yet. Oh, my goodness.
No. Just checking.
He's got an amazing footnote down here. Eric, I don't know if you had a chance to read that yet, about the 10 different teledotes. Oh, it's like, wow. About 150 years ago, some German higher critics began to criticize the Bible because they noticed as they read through Genesis,
okay, we have to take a drink for Kent not knowing what the phrase higher criticism means. Okay, so, look, this is not a word that I would expect most people to know, right? Like, what is biblical criticism or textual criticism or higher criticism? Like, what are these things?
Why don't you explain for the audience what that means?
I'm about to.
Okay.
And the thing is, it's not that they're criticizing the Bible, it's that they're examining the text of the Bible critically, which means they're trying to examine it and see how it was composed, who composed it, where they might have composed it, what the variants are in the text. So for instance, if you get a good study Bible, it will list, like it'll have the main body of the text, but then every once in a while it'll have some superscript numbers. And those are references to notes at the bottom of the page. And you can check, and it will say, or sometimes it's in the middle of the two columns. If it's a 2-column Bible, you know, we'll have a middle column that's just text notes, right? And so it'll list things like manuscript variants and alternative interpretations, and it'll tell you things like, you know, oh, the grammar here is unclear, it could also be translated as this. That's what textual criticism is. That is the only honest way to engage with the text. And if you don't speak the original language and have access to manuscript copies, it's also the only way to approach the text in an honest way as a modern person, is to look at critical editions. And good study Bibles will be critical editions, right? Like I have, I don't even know how many Bibles I have. It's probably like 8 or something. But the ones that I actually bother to use regularly, when I bother to use a Bible, are the ones that have the extensive notes on textual variants and alternative readings. And then often I'll just check with the original language. It's easier with Greek because I know more Greek than I do Hebrew. I know very little Hebrew. But at least with the New Testament, I can then go in and check and see, okay, what are these variants? Is there any significant difference in the meaning? And the answer is usually no, because usually it's like, oh, in this manuscript they abbreviated the word Jesus, and I'm like, okay, I don't really care. But yeah, that's what criticism is in this context. It is not just being like, the Bible sucks, meh. But that's not what's happening here. And the fact that that's how Kent is portraying it really bugs me as someone who really likes history, and especially who really likes ancient history.
Is he lying, or is he just too stupid to know any better?
I think in this case he might just be too stupid.
Because I didn't know what that was. I mean, the audience might not have known, is what I was going to say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look,
explain for that.
I don't think most people would know what it means to be a higher critic of the Bible. But the thing is, if you're going to talk about higher criticism, you should know what it is. Right, exactly. It's sort of like if you went into a debate on whether or not birds are dinosaurs.
Everything, always, you should probably know what you're talking about if you're in, you know, trying to give a sermon or a lecture or whatever.
Like if you wanted
to something or a group of people something, you should know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Like if you wanted to debate an actual dinosaur on whether or not birds are dinosaurs, maybe know what a dinosaur is first.
Maybe.
Kent.
Or maybe I've considered the question of how would you tell if a skeleton is a dinosaur or not?
Yeah.
Maybe have had considered that at some point in the previous, I don't know, 30 years of your ministry.
Ben, did you just use the pluperfect?
Did I do what?
Did you just use the pluperfect? It's one of my favorite tense/aspect combinations.
I think so.
You did, and it was nice.
Have had, I think
I
said.
That's pluperfect, man. Good job. I like it.
Did I use it correctly?
You did.
Well, that's going to be it for me. I'll see you guys next time. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, we'll continue on.
It appeared like there were 4 different authors. And so they had the JEDP, I think is the initials for it, the Yahwist, the Priestly. And they said there's actually...
And Deuteronomist and Elohist. Yes.
4 different people that wrote the book of Genesis. And, you know, it comes from 4 different...
No, there was the whole Torah. So I'm just going to drink because Kent can't even get the... Oh, my goodness. He can't even get the 4-source hypothesis about the origin of the Torah right.
Different sources, and it's just a compilation of, you know, myths. Well, they blew it. There's actually 10 different authors to the book of Genesis.
Okay, first, I think where he's going to go with this is that various characters in Genesis actually wrote it, including like Adam and like Noah or something. And if that's where he goes, we're going to drink for it. However, I'm also going to go ahead and say that I lost my train of thought.
Nice.
There we go. This has been a pretty boozy one so far. Actually, I feel like I want to recover it. I'm going to go back like 10 seconds and see what happens.
It comes from 4 different sources, and it's just a compilation of, myths.
Oh, that's right. I was going to talk about myth. Okay, so here's the thing. Even if the Bible were 100% literally true and had no contradictions, and all these things are true, it's still a book of myth, because myth isn't a word that means a thing that's false, right? So, for instance, so myths are things that explain why the world does operate the way it does and how it ought to operate, and why, in some cases, those things might align and why they might not. So, for instance, America, the United States of America, has a foundational myth about the founding fathers getting together and the Continental Congress and writing the, having the Declaration of Independence written and signed by the members of the Continental Congress, having the various drafts of the Constitution written, sent off to the various states, having them sign on, creating the United States, right? Now, some of the national myth stuff, like, George Washington chopping down a cherry tree, that's fictional. But the core bits there, like there was a Continental Congress, that's true. Did they have Thomas Jefferson draft up a Declaration of Independence? Yes. Was it sent to King George? Yes. But these are still the founding myths of the United States of America. But they're also historically factual by and large. Myth doesn't mean non-historical or false. It means it's the story that tells you why things are the way they are and whether that's a good or a bad thing. So it is a false dichotomy to say myth versus false. Some myths are true in the literal sense, and many more myths are true in a figurative sense. So, for instance, let's say you do believe in God, but you're not a young Earth creationist. And so these creation myths explain to you that, say, humans have a special relationship with God because they're made in his image, and that has, that is meaningful in terms of like human creative capacity and ability to act as moral agents and things like that. Okay, that's something. And then, God is the ultimate source of, creation. Okay, great. And then, you can take things like the stewardship of nature, that humans should take a protective stance towards nature from the ideas of stewardship of nature found in the creation myths in the Bible. Great. All of that couldn't be true without it being true that Adam and Eve were literally the first 2 humans ever who appeared 6,000 years ago or whatever, right? Myths are important for reasons other than their literal truth in terms of history. They're important because what they tell us about our worldview and moral philosophy and ethics. So I just wanted to get that out there about myths, because I'm really tired of this myth versus truth dichotomy. I hate it. It's one of the reasons why I don't like the Jesus didn't exist position being called mythicism, because Jesus is a mythical figure no matter how literally true the Gospels are. And we have from Cattlehorn a $2 super chat with both a Godzilla and a Mothra, and that's a drink. I was getting a little thirsty. So, alright, that was my spiel about myths.
Well, they blew it. There's actually 10 different authors to the book of Genesis.
Oh, this is where we get to see if I was right.
No place in the Bible does it say Moses wrote Genesis.
Oh, that's true. Take a drink.
Moses was the editor of Genesis. Moses wrote the next 4 books. He wrote Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, but Moses did not write Genesis. He edited it.
I'm just going to have to say that the Torah includes Moses' death scene, so we certainly couldn't have written the rest of it, but that's minor. We're going to keep going.
What happened? God wrote part of Genesis and apparently gave it to Adam. Adam wrote part and passed it on. Noah took some of the book of Genesis on the ark with him. Noah wrote some.
Yep, I was right. We're taking a drink.
As you read through Genesis, it says, "These are the generations of."
Oh,
that
man.
is their signature. I'm signing off. I'm handing it to somebody else now. Let me show it to you here. Genesis chapter 2 and verse number 4. These are the generations of. That phrase, appears in Genesis 2:4. It appears in Genesis chapter 5 and verse 1, chapter 6, verse 9, chapter 10, verse 1, chapter 11, verse 10. Too fast? Chapter 11, verse 27, chapter 25, verse 19, chapter 36, verses 1 and 9, and chapter 37, verse 2. What's happening here is they're passing on the baton, they're signing off, saying these are the generations of Adam. Then somebody else takes over.
Why is it that they get progressively and like exponentially longer? Why didn't Adam have more to say? Because like Adam apparently leaves off in chapter 2. And then there's like a 3-chapter gap. And then there's like a 10-chapter. Like, why do the gaps keep getting progressively bigger and bigger? Like, did Adam just have nothing to say past like his expulsion from the garden? Did Noah not have much to say except about that time he got drunk, stripped naked, and then his son found him?
Moses probably edited those parts out.
Oh, okay, yeah, because Moses was the editor. Yeah, okay, there we go.
I was trying to get past the whole God wrote part and gave it to Adam. I'm just thinking like, in the beginning, I created the heavens and the earth, but it doesn't say that though. So I don't know what part.
Also, Ratchet Freak says almost like a literary device for a time skip. Yeah, exactly. It's almost like maybe this is the literary equivalent of like a scene cut in a film, right? Where you're just supposed to know that, oh, hey, that means we're jumping ahead now. Yeah, so we'll keep going.
For writing. So to scoffers that are saying Genesis is written by 4 different authors, no, it's written by 10 different authors.
Right.
But all of them were eyewitnesses.
Well, except for Adam, who wasn't an eyewitness to all that Genesis 1 stuff, but sure, whatever.
This wasn't a story passed down generation after generation. This is...
Kent, even your explanation says it was, so I'm taking another drink. Kent is like, it's not a story passed down generation to generation if I just reduce the likely number of generations. No, that's not how that works.
Eyewitness accounts. And it's just an amazing footnote there that Henry Morris has, and it's probably on their website, ICR, which stands for Institute for Creation Research, icr.org. If not, I'd recommend you get the Defender's Study Bible. It's just tremendous. We have them in leather, Dan. Did we ever get those in? Just burgundy only in the leather. Otherwise, you can get them in hardback, and they're like $50, aren't they? $35 for hardback and $50 for the leather. But
I feel like this section should have been more like an infomercial. Like, only $35. But I want it to have the energy, right? I want Ken to be like,
I see what you mean.
And if you act now...
What, 3 things already?
Right, but I
want the number on the bottom of the screen.
Exactly. Yeah, I want a number at the bottom of the screen. I want Ken to be like, and if you act now, we'll knock off a further $5 from your $19.99 a month plan for 3 months.
And I want it to say postage and handling instead of shipping and handling.
Right.
And I want there to be a timer counting down. Like, start at 6 minutes or whatever. Just start counting down.
It would be so much more fun. Because the thing is, like, I kind of like the high energy of the infomercials, right? Like I've never bought anything from an infomercial, but I enjoy the high energy.
You should, dude. You should.
Should I?
Yeah.
All right. Well, give me a bunch of money, and then I'll buy something from an infomercial.
What did I buy that I liked? The pet egg. I bought that. I like that.
Okay.
And I did it in the store. It was like probably $8 or something. And then eventually I got a food dehydrator, but it wasn't the one from the famous infomercial.
Oh, so it wasn't from the infomercial, huh?
So I guess it was just the pet egg thing.
There you go.
Brand name. Oops.
That's awesome footnotes there. You may want to read that. Genesis chapter 2, verse 4. His explanation of the 10 different... It's called a teledoth. I closed it because I don't know how to spell it, or else I'd tell you right now. T-E-L-adoth.
Oh, that was a joke.
But
I think that's a joke.
Bible was not handed down generation after generation. Now, you need to be aware that there is a little controversy on one date on this chart.
I don't understand what
and it's like, spelled out. If
it was there in the beginning, it's here now. And
I mean, unless Adam is still alive.
How is it still here if it wasn't passed down from generation to generation?
It's just like, even you think it was
passed down. The same exact copy of the same Bible, I mean? Is that what he means? Like,
yeah, somewhere we've got Adam's handwritten copy of the Bible.
Yeah.
You look in the notes on your timeline. I think it is note...
Oh, Robert adds it. Let me be clear. Like, it's not the high energy infomercials isn't something I just sit around watching. However, compared to Kent's boringness in terms of selling his stuff, I would much rather have Billy Mays selling the Defender's Bible than Kent Hovind.
You know you want to see that too, Robert had said. You know you want to see Kent do
I'd watch at least...
Not, but you do.
I would at least watch a highlight reel of Billy Mays selling the Defender's Bible. Like, Billy Mays here with the Defender's Bible. You're never going to believe how much information is in this Bible.
Just like a 30-second clip or something like that. Not the whole Kent with Ben episode.
Right. Or like one of those like slightly auto-tuned like musical remixes like they did for Slap Chop. Remember like the Slap Chop rap? Was one of the it's an older meme, but it checks out.
Okay.
We'll have to watch it off air or something. But yeah, like I'd watch something like that. But like, who's gonna make like a rap supercut of Kent Hovind selling the Defender's Bible? No one.
Number.
Look at this. He doesn't even know what he's looking at.
He's looking at what on
when was Abraham born?
Oh my goodness. It's true. Billy Mays only sold products he believed in.
He didn't sell cocaine.
Well, let's see.
Hey, I told YouTube there wasn't a drug contest.
Number 13. All 10 of Abraham's post-flood ancestors, even Noah, were alive for his early life. There is a discrepancy about Terah's age at the birth of Abram. I have marked on my chart that Terah was 70 when Abram was born. You see that on there? There is an interesting note in one of Henry Morris's books, and it's listed there. What's the name of the book? I forgot to... the Genesis record, where he explains about this controversy about how old was Terah at Abram's birth. Terah might have been 130 when Abram was born. Either 70 or 130. There's a 60-year discrepancy in there, okay, about Abram's birth.
Why is this important?
I'd recommend you get the book noted there and read that passage if you want to know. Because some people may nail you on that, and you need to be aware. You say, oh yeah, I've heard about that controversy. I read all the stuff and decided to go with the 70, though I'm aware that it really could be 130. That's about the only date I'm aware of where there's a real discrepancy in the genealogy.
Like how he's like, oh, it's a discrepancy. It's not a contradiction. Don't worry. It's just a discrepancy. Okay, sure, yeah, Ken.
I just don't care at all about
this whole
70 versus 130 in that. Like, does that affect how old the Earth is by 60 years then, Ken? Is it 6,060 now? Or is that already factored in somewhere else?
Like, why are we even going into this? Who cares?
Might be factored in somewhere else, because they could just skip that guy, because there's overlap.
Theology, and it'd be worth reading the notes just so you can say, yes, I've read that. I know about it. Okay. Shem, though, lived long enough, certainly to know Abraham and Isaac, and possibly Jacob, depending upon which date you put for Abram's birth.
It's funny how, in Kent's mind, all of these people know each other and they're like hanging out at family reunions and stuff.
Right.
But at no point in the narrative is it ever even hinted at that Jacob and Shem hung out.
Right.
Like, did Shem have anything to say when Jacob was sold off into slavery by his brothers? Apparently not.
Nothing worth, nothing that Moses thought was worth keeping in the Bible when he edited.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
It's just a bizarre notion that like all these people are like hanging out with each other, and there's no indication of it.
Right.
It may slide the scale over 60 years if you use the 130 for Terah's age when Abram was born. And it goes into all the genealogy stuff. It gets a little complicated, but it's interesting to study.
Save your questions for the end, lady.
Right? There's a Q&A session.
Shem was?
I didn't know Charlie Brown's mom was
They could have gone anywhere. These people could have gone anywhere. They had the whole world.
One of the things I hate is, like, in addition to the really boring camera work, like, have a portable mic, right? When someone asks a question, whoever's filming this could just bring over another mic. And they don't even have to make the audio sync up exactly if they're not going to pan to the person. So, like, you could have just cut out this audio, inserted her audio, and done. This is just such a lazily produced series. And, like, I would be ashamed if I were...
They'd have to go back and rewatch and edit and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
No, I don't do any of that on Kent with Ben. So,
Well, look, if I were the editor or the cinematographer or the producer or any part of the production crew behind this, which I don't even know if there really was one. Well, there had to have been an editor because we know it's edited slightly. I would be ashamed of this. This is like this is like the lowest effort that is imaginable.
Shem and these guys, they were allowed to go anywhere. Later, Abraham was called out of Ur the Chaldees, which is over in Babylon, Baghdad, basically.
I mean, it's in Ur, not... I'm just going to take another drink for bad history. Okay, so Ur, right, is an old Sumerian city, right? So that means it's in southern Iraq. At the time, it would have been near the coast, although where the coast is has changed quite a lot since the height of the Sumerian civilization. And actually, I believe by the time of the Chaldeans, it was no longer a primarily Sumerian-speaking area, because Sumerian dies out a fair while back as a living spoken language. But whatever. But Babylon is a much later city. Babylon wasn't even founded at the same time as Ur. Now, did Babylon exist at the time, roughly, that Abraham was supposed to have lived? Yeah, probably. But to call Ur Babylon is just wrong. They're not the same city. Like, they're not in the same place. If you're in Babylon, you have to walk quite a ways to get to Ur. In fact, I recommend... I don't know for certain, but I'm pretty sure it's a few hundred miles.
A few hundred miles, okay.
Like, you can't...
So in the box, like at least 100, you would say?
Yeah, at least. Like, you can't just, like... You can't just, like, pop over to Ur from Babylon and say hi.
The city was so big that it was still all one city.
No.
Again, nothing.
Yeah, it's... And the thing is, it's not like the Bible doesn't differentiate between the city of Ur and the city of Babylon. Because it uses both names and doesn't use them interchangeably.
Well, there you go.
Well, yeah, Babylon was a smaller settlement at first, but that's just how cities work, right? Like, cities start out small and they get bigger. Very few cities were founded as metropolises. So.
To come over there, but nobody knows where Shem lived, or Noah. How long did Noah live after the flood? Where did he live? What did he do?
All right, this is one of my pet peeves that happened recently, because I was on earlier with Jungle Jargon. And he kept saying, like, do you know who? And then he would name some Bible character. And I'm just like, I don't care. Just stop asking the question. Because no, I don't have all the Genesis characters memorized, because I don't care. Because they're not really important, ultimately. He's like, well, it was Mithrain. I'm like, okay, great. Just say it. And look, Jungle Jargon, if you watch this, because you might... I'm not saying, like, that Jungle Jargon, what a jerk. I'm just saying that rhetorical style is not very effective at making your interlocutor feel like you're taking the conversation seriously, ultimately. Yeah, so maybe don't. In other words, rhetorical questions best used sparingly. Mic up the audience. Oh my goodness.
Right.
I hate this.
You're right.
This is just
Well, Shem might have already been there. Maybe that's where Shem lived. When
I don't know if that was a joke
to...
enacted or an actual statement, because I don't know what she's saying.
You know what? Let's just call it a joke because I'm thirsty.
I don't think it was, but I'm also out of...
I just drank anyway.
I got a tiny bit left.
Yeah. Look, Smitty says, lol, Wild Dapper is being polite to Jungle Jargon. Look, Jungle Jargon was reasonably polite to me when we talked today on his live stream. So, until Jungle Jargon stops being polite to me, I'm going to extend him that same courtesy. Because I value a civil discourse, and my discourse with Jungle Jargon was reasonably civil, even if it was a little bit frustrating.
To Israel, he met a guy named Melchizedek, the Ancient of Days, without father or mother. Well, since everybody else probably still had their father and mother still alive, to meet somebody who didn't, Some people think Noah or Shem.
No. Saying without mother or father doesn't mean with dead mother or father. That's not what this means. Look, I'm sure that some people here watching have parents who have passed away. Put 1 in the chat if you have a parent who passed away and you think that means you don't have parents. Put 2 in the chat if you think that having a parent who has died still means you had parents. So I'm going to take a quick drink for Kent not being able to understand even just the basics of English. Fernando Katakai says, what's your favorite pizza restaurant? So it's kind of tricky. So I moved out here not super long before. Well, okay. I moved out to where I'm here now, what, about 2 years ago, Bent?
Yeah, it was in June.
Of
2
years?
2.5?
Something like that, right?
1.5 years, I don't remember.
But one of the problems is that for a lot of that first time, I wasn't here very much, so I wasn't really getting to know the area very well. But then, when I started being here a lot, COVID-19 happened. So...
And to be clear, you were here like 5 or 6 days a month in your apartment.
Yeah.
The other days you were in other states, usually, or other
So,
places.
unfortunately, like, the only local pizza places that I even know are like, oh, there's a Domino's. Because, like, I don't even know what's around. Because, it was like I was either always gone or then, boom, COVID-19 lockdown. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, yeah. Well, here we go.
Was Melchizedek. I wouldn't be dogmatic about it, but that is a very interesting theory and certainly a possibility. And Melchizedek lived in Jerusalem. At the time, it wasn't a city.
What do you mean it wasn't a city? What was it? What was Jerusalem if it wasn't a city, Kent? Because, like, Abraham goes there. He goes and sees Melchizedek, who's a priest, apparently of Yahweh. What? Was it a hole in the ground? Was it a single hut that only Melchizedek lived in? Who was he the priest for? See, I'm taking a drink because I don't even know. What do you even mean? This is a frustrating thing where, I can't even formulate what Kent is saying into an idea, let alone one that makes sense.
I'm too tired to be frustrated anymore.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, while we're on the subject of what did Noah and Shem do after the flood, I mean, they did live a long time. You got to keep in mind, they're living on a devastated planet. Everything is destroyed. It's like Gilligan's Island. You got nothing to work with.
Fun fact, any poem written in common meter can be sung to the tune of Gilligan's Island.
Nice.
Yeah. So, there's that. But here's the other thing, right? So if let's say we look at, say, the stories about Abraham, right? Abraham is living in an area where there are multiple cities. Egypt is already at least in the Middle Kingdom based on most biblical scholarship, even extremely conservative, like young earth type scholarship, right? And now he's saying that Shem lived to know Abraham, right? So for at least a long time of Shem's life, according to Kent, the earth wasn't a devastated pile of post-apocalyptic garbage. There were cities, there were societies, there were people who had invented writing more than once in different locations, right? It's just not true that by the time we get to Abraham, the earth is just, it's just a pile of garbage. There's just corpses rotting all over from the flood. So it's just frustrating that even internally, this doesn't work, Kent. And look, I don't think Kent is ever going to watch this, but if you do, Kent, make sure your nonsense is at least internally consistent. Get, to the level of internal consistency of, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and then work from there. But currently, you're, at the level of internal consistency of, I don't know, weird / fan fiction for Doctor Who. Yeah. Which, by the way, I once had someone send me an example of that. No, you wouldn't. Don't read Doctor Who / fan fiction. It's terrible. Because I was once sent one, and the person who sent it was like, oh, hey, read this. And I'm just like, this is weird, and it kind of makes me uncomfortable. I'm going to stop now.
Yeah.
So probably just survival was a full-time job.
Smitty asks movie or show about Avatar: The Last Airbender. That you even had to ask that is kind of offensive, and I'm going to go with without Legend of Korra. Because Legend of Korra isn't... The world building's a little bit iffy there. Like, for instance, why in like such a short time did we go from like early industrial technology in terms of the Fire Nation to like modern skyscrapers? Like, what the heck happened? So, okay, we're going to stop talking about Avatar: Last Airbender now.
I never saw any of it, so I don't know.
That's pretty good.
For just about everybody. Kind of like the pioneers, Daniel Boone and those guys, you know. You work 16 hours a day just to get food on the table. That would certainly be the case for the first 100 years after the flood, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe, but actually, like, modern hunter-gatherer societies don't actually work 16 hours a day. They actually have a fair amount of free time. So it's... Now, they can't support huge populations, and they know that, and that's one of the reasons why they don't just, you know, pop out a kid every 9 months. But it's actually not true that hunter-gatherers have to work 16 hours a day just to survive. But maybe that's reasonable right after the flood. I don't know. I mean, right after the flood, you probably have to work like 27 hours a day just to get 4 hours worth of food, which is one of the reasons why we know the flood didn't happen, is because no one could have survived in the post-flood world, but hey.
But I'm sure it was a difficult life for a while. But in Numbers chapter 6, it says, "They shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them," God said. In 1 Kings chapter 9,
drink for
the
Godzilla.
Lord said unto him, "I have heard thy prayer and thy supplication that thou hast made before me. I have hallowed this house which thou hast built to put my name there." God says, I'm going to put my name right there. 2 Kings chapter 21. "And he built altars in the house of the Lord, of which the Lord said, In Jerusalem will I put my name." Stay with me here now.
I'm trying, Kent, but it's not easy.
2 Kings chapter 21.
I know, I'm lost.
"In Jerusalem,
Yeah,
which I have chosen out of
like,
all the
why-
tribes of Israel,
why?
will I put my name forever." 2 Chronicles 33. "In Jerusalem will I put my name forever."
What does that mean, Kent, to you?
Yeah, I'm
Like, what are you
waiting for
getting at?
Yeah.
Is the name of God hidden in the word Jerusalem? Because that's what literally it's saying, right? Or do you think that means something different? Like, what are you getting at? I don't know.
I'm hoping...
I see USA in the middle.
Ooh!
USA, Kent, one of those
You
guys.
can't spell Jerusalem without USA.
I don't know.
That means America was created
It
by
says
God.
Sal. Is he talking about Sal?
Sal? Oh, it does say Sal. Yeah. Hey, Sal Cordova.
Could be-
Kent's
it
talking
could
about
be-
you.
Yeah. Is it Jairus and they misspelled Jesus when they named him? It's supposed to be Jairus? Is that what you mean, Kent? Like, I guess we'll let him maybe.
Yeah, well, maybe he'll tell us.
So who cares? Well, watch this now.
I like that Kent acknowledges, who cares? Yeah, exactly, Kent. Who cares? Tell us.
If you look in Psalms chapter 119 in your Bible, you may have a...
I'm taking a drink for Kent being bad at Bible. Okay.
What do you mean?
Psalms doesn't have chapters. It has Psalms. Psalm 119 isn't the 119th chapter of Psalms.
Oh, did you say Psalm chapter 119?
Yes.
Oh,
The book of Psalms is a
Gotcha.
collection of individual psalms. Each of those quote-unquote chapters is a different poem.
It's a different psalm.
Yeah, it's a psalm. It's not chapters of psalms. It's the book of Psalms. Oh.
Yeah.
Look,
Sure.
here's the thing. I wouldn't mind that much, except he claims to be an expert on dinosaurs and the Bible.
Yeah.
If you're an expert on the Bible, get the Bible right. Right? Like, I don't claim to be an expert on the Bible, but I at least know that Psalm 111 isn't Psalms of chapter 111. It's Psalm 111. Singular, number.
Bible that tells the Hebrew alphabet. I think there are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. The letter Shin, S-C-H-I-N.
S-C-H-I-N. I guess someone else put that in there, but, like, that's a really weird way to say it, but sure, whatever.
With those, this is the Hebrew letter that is the single letter that represents God. If they want to say...
Kind of. Okay, so... Shin is the first letter in the word Shem, which in Hebrew means name, and then as a result of various taboos about actually saying the name of God, it came to represent the name of God because of association where people would say things like the name of God, whatever. Interestingly enough, you know the Vulcan salute? Yeah, that actually is basically the shape of the letter Shin, which is a hand gesture that's used in certain Jewish ceremonies and certain, denominations of Judaism by what remains of the priestly caste. So you're aware of certain people whose last name are Cohen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, traditionally, they're actually seen as actual members of the tribe of Israel that was actually allowed to do, like, priest stuff. So they have certain religious significance in the more conservative sects of Judaism. And so at certain holidays, they actually pronounce a blessing over the congregation in the synagogue while holding their hands out that way. And Leonard Nimoy, being Jewish, noticed this and kind of picked it up as his hand gesture, right? So tying it into Star Trek.
Oh, yeah.
So there we go. That's that. Interestingly enough, the Vulcan salute comes from Judaism.
Well, I was going to say he was actually Vulcan, not Jewish, but
well,
he may
okay.
have converted.
No, Leonard Nimoy was Jewish. Spock was Vulcan.
That's where we disagree.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, so Leonard Nimoy actually introduced that to Star Trek as a result of having grown up attending synagogue services.
But I still don't understand how what his point was with this.
Oh, so I can actually see where it's going. So you see this map of Jerusalem?
Okay.
So if you notice, they're a little like, I don't know if they're hills or valleys, but they make a little like W shape. He's going to say that the shape of Jerusalem has to do with the letter Shin.
Okay.
And since Shin is the first letter in the word name, and since it became tradition in a lot of Hebraic religious traditions to use the word name as a stand-in for God's name due to taboos, he's going to say that the fact that basically this has this shape is God putting his name in Jerusalem, even though that makes no sense. I'm very confident that's where he's going.
Telling us that Jerusalem is Vulcan.
Well, or that. So let's see. If it's Vulcan, we'll drink for Ben's correct prediction. If it's because of the shape of Shin, we'll drink for my correct prediction.
God's name in one letter, they write this Shin. You follow this now? Notice the shape of the Shin. It's 3 lines coming up kind of at an angle. Notice the valleys in Jerusalem.
Taking a drink.
I was so close.
The city of Jerusalem with the valleys is laid out in a Shin. Go to any Hebrew temple,
goodness.
go to any Jewish house. Almost all of them on their doorway someplace will have a little Shin.
I mean, the last one I said had a Shin, but it was in the word shalom. So, I don't know. Does that count? Which, by the way, it was fun, because I met the secretary, and I was like, oh, hey, that's a nice little shalom on the door. And she was like, oh, do you read Hebrew, or are you Jewish? And I was like, well, a little bit and no. It's like, oh, well, how did you learn? And I'm like, look, I'm a gigantic nerd. We're just going to go with it. So, yeah, it was, whatever.
That's God's name. And God said, I will put my...
It's not his name. It's the first letter in the word for name. Goodness. I can't. I'm taking a drink for just bad Hebrew. Oh, man.
my name in Jerusalem. It's right there. Pastor friend of mine from Milton showed me this. He said he was in Israel taking a tour with a secular tour group. He'd been on the Christian tour groups a couple of times. He decided to go with the secular group. And this Jewish guide is showing him around. And
Wait, was it a Jewish tour or was it a secular tour? Like, okay, look, to be fair, it's not like you can't be Jewish and give a secular tour of Jerusalem. So you know what? I withdraw my criticism because, look, this has been a particularly boozy episode, and I'm just going to say it's fair enough. You can be a Jewish secular tour guide.
Jewish guide knew he was a pastor and said, well, Pastor, do you have anything else to add to our tour here? He said, sure, put the map of Jerusalem back up there, would you please?
This is one of those press X to doubt that it ever happened.
He said, you see this valley right here, and this valley right here, and this valley right here? And the guide said, oh, it's a Shin.
Yeah,
He
things that
lived there
didn't
all
happen.
of his life and never saw it. So some people think, excuse me.
There's other shapes I could see in there that I could also draw. So
Okay, so this is what this reminds me of. So I'm gonna do a thing, right? So okay, so I'm gonna open this in a new tab. I'm gonna put it over on the other monitor. Oh, did I get it? In a new tab. Stop being a jerk. Okay, so right here, right? We've got a whatever. Zoom in on it. So this right here is a fish that purportedly, miraculously, has the name of God in Arabic on it. Okay, but here's the thing. The shape of the word Allah in Arabic is like a vertical line and then a W. It's not exactly like the most complicated shape that could ever exist, right?
okay.
Like, so it's actually not surprising that it would pop up every once in a while. Similarly, oh, drink from Mothra. A vaguely W shape, which is basically what Shin is, which, by the way, it's also Sin. The difference between the sh and the sound actually is not noted in unpointed text in Hebrew. You actually have to get a pointed text to know the difference if you're not already familiar with the text. And the difference is Shin has a dot on top of the letter on one side, and Sin has it on the other side. Not hugely important, but I thought I'd point it out. Also, it's related to the Arabic letter for the same sound, which is a little, like, 3 little vertical lines close together. Whatever, it doesn't matter. This isn't about Semitic alphabets. Anyway, so yeah, that's the thing is, this isn't exactly like some kind of crazy coincidence. Does this fish have the letter Shin on it? Is it actually a Jewish fish instead of a Muslim fish? No, it's what we call Paridolia, where you just kind of see, yeah, James Downer just said it. Paridolia. Paridolia, he said.
Patterns because you're good at that.
Yeah, the human brain is amazingly good at learning patterns. Or not learning, but recognizing patterns. And it's so good that it invents patterns that aren't really there. So yeah, this is just another example of Paridolia. So we're going to continue on. But now you guys are aware of the phenomenon of people thinking that the word Allah is on various animals because it's such a simple shape.
Some people think Noah and or Shem lived in what today is Jerusalem. If one of those guys was Melchizedek,
I mean, based on where Noah's normally thought to have, landed, that'd be quite a trek. But I guess if you have hundreds of years, why not, right?
that certainly would be a good type of Christ. Noah would certainly be interesting, having lived through the flood.
Okay, so Melchizedek is Noah, according to Kent here, or maybe one of his sons are, right?
Maybe. I don't know. I
Does
think that's what he's saying.
Does
He's saying
Moses
maybe.
or something not know this? Is this not something that would be interesting to point out? Like, let's just say it's true. Why wouldn't you say that in the actual text? That would be awesome. Like, is Noah hiding his identity from Abraham or something so that Abraham doesn't know? Because that would contradict your whole Abraham could have just gone and asked Noah because he totally knew who he was. I mean, pick a lane, Kent. Either Abraham had easy access to Noah, or Noah is the mysterious Melchizedek. You can't go both ways, right? Like, Ben, you know me fairly well.
Mm-hmm.
If you showed up in some church, right, and I were there, and I covered myself in like a hooded cloak, and I was like, "Oh, hey, Ben, I mean, you stranger, how are?" You'd probably know it was me pretty quick.
Probably.
Yeah. So this whole idea is just like crazy town. We're gonna keep going.
Now,
Is
I
that
don't
you,
get dogmatic.
Melchizedek? Oh no, it's Dapper Dino.
Exactly. It's like, oh, Tom, I'm not Dapper Dino. I'm Melchizedek. Trust me. If I were not Melchizedek, why would I be speaking in this outrageous accent?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Who
exactly.
Who could know?
And I don't preach it that it's a fact, but it's just an interesting sidelight. Since we're chasing all the rabbits on this course, that's something fascinating to study. God did put his name in Jerusalem. Later on, a fellow named
No, he put the first letter of the word name in Jerusalem at best.
Abraham went to sacrifice his son. He took his boy and the wood and climbed up a mountain. Guess which mountain? Right in Jerusalem. Later on, Jesus was crucified. Same mountain.
I mean, that's not much of a mountain. We know what mountain Golgotha was, and it's basically a hill. So, I hope it's not the same mountain, because if it was, then the story...
Golgotha is place of a skull, right? It's not even like the hill of the skull.
Well, the name doesn't literally mean hill of the skull, but it is a hill.
Yeah, but it's not important enough or big enough of a hill for them to really even have called it that in the word Golgotha, if I'm understanding that.
Yeah, no, it's not a mountain at all. Yeah, like, it's insignificant enough. Like, it's a rise in the landscape, right? So, if this is the mountain that Abraham had to climb, it kind of makes it sort of a boring story, but whatever.
Right in Jerusalem. All this happens in the same place. And it could be that that's where Noah and Shem went and lived. Now, some people think that Noah and Shem built the Great Pyramid. I don't know that that's true.
Who thinks that? Please, if anyone knows someone who thinks that Noah and Shem built the Pyramid of Khufu, please let me know, because I want to talk to that person.
But that's an interesting thought. Somebody certainly built the Great Pyramid. It's a strange...
Is that a drink for you?
He must have a really long shot.
That sounds like it's a drink for bed, so I'm going to drink.
Yeah.
One compared to the other pyramids, and I think it's worthy of study. One guy, Hank Hanegraaff, gets all upset with me because I mentioned pyramidology. He never has called me, but he's blasted me several times on his radio program, The Bible Answer Man. And I tell everybody, well, tell him to call me. I can defend my position. In my seminar, I say, here's what some people think, that the Great Pyramid might be a structure, a temple to the Lord. It's got all kinds of Christian symbolism in there. Some people think it's just a heathen symbol. Some people think it's one of the star group, from Orion.
I'm just going to drink for Christian symbolism in the Great Pyramid, because no, there's just not.
Is that aliens can't... I don't know.
It's got just as much alien influence as it does Christian influence, just to say that. And I love this, some people think is Kent Hovind's version of, I'm just asking questions. Like, did Kent Hovind intentionally drown a boy in his dinosaur Adventureland? Well, we know that a boy did drown. I don't know. I'm just asking questions. Kent, you see how that works? It's not an honest way to conduct discourse.
Did Kent avoid paying taxes for a long time and go to prison? I'm just asking questions.
Yeah.
And I believe it is. I don't know. I just think if you're going to be a student of any subject, you ought to look at all the sides of it.
I'm going to drink because Kent is right, but maybe follow your own advice there, Kent.
Yeah, right.
So I just say, hey, here's what some people think about the pyramid, the Great Pyramid. So it could be indeed the temple to the Lord or a witness to the Lord in the land of Egypt. Don't know.
How? There wasn't a human accessible entrance for most of its existence. Oh, drink for Mothra. The idea that the pyramid is a temple is completely insane, because the thing is, a temple is a structure made to worship some supernatural entity, right? To be a temple, you have to be an area where group ceremonies can be conducted. But the pyramid, most of the rooms are completely inaccessible by intent, and even... Oh, drink from Mothra again. And none of the rooms are basically big enough for significant congregations to come together to venerate anything. We've got a chamber with a sarcophagus, and we've got some associated chambers that were almost certainly just there to make construction work. And that's it. The whole thing just doesn't work as a temple. It's almost as crazy as when Ben Carson said it was a granary. Because Ben Carson thinks the pyramids were granaries built by Jacob for the 7-year famine. Yeah. So I'm just going to say this. Ben Carson is the one who is challenging the generally accepted notion that brain surgeons have to be smart. Yeah.
He was pretty good at brain surgery in his prime.
Look, no shade.
He was world class. I'll give him that. But
Ben
yeah,
Carson was legitimately the first person to separate conjoined twins who shared brain connections and have them both survive. Like, that's a no shade there.
I don't know if you would consider that Guinness record or whatever, but like no one had ever done that before.
Right.
He did it.
Ben Carson, world class brain surgeon. Also, world class moron and world class sleep aid. Because if you ever listen to Ben Carson for more than 10 minutes, you're going to want to fall asleep because he might be the most boring human ever invented.
Really relaxing. It's like watching golf. Perfect nap. Perfect nap stuff.
So now you guys know my is that political or is it just Ben Carson? I don't know. It's semi-political, but whatever. Ben Carson is boring and
well, he
crazy.
Tried to get into politics.
Oh, he did. What wasn't he? Isn't he still?
I mean,
He's still Secretary of Urban Development and Housing.
Okay, so there you go.
Yeah.
But Shem and Noah certainly did something. I think, if nothing else, they took incredible wisdom and knowledge that had been gained in the 1600 years before the flood, and they tried to pass it on.
Hold on. Don Giovanni says, to be fair, the Great Pyramids give you a free granary in each of your cities. Yes. Let's use the Civilization games as historical evidence. Done. That's just great. Okay.
To the next generation. Now, today, there are all sorts of Masonic lodges type things, who think they have the wisdom of the ancients.
All right, we're going to wrap up after, or as Ken Hovind is starting to talk about Masonic lodges, because, I am not ready to get into a talk about Masonic lodges. We've also been going for almost 2 hours. So we're going to start wrapping up here. Okay, so, Bent, you got anything you want to plug?
Copper Magma, and stand by for potential recordings from my other band. But the talks have just begun, so that would be quite a ways out, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, you want to hear some other music that's not Copper Magma that I do? Yep, that'll be hopefully in the next several months.
Okay. Well, I've just put in chat, and I'm going to put it again in a little bit. I'll link to the GoFundMe to help with Banator's final costs. So I know that a lot of the people who are here now didn't hear and weren't here for the moment of silence that we did for Banator. We lost Banator on the 26th. It was unexpected. We don't know exactly what happened. We know that his landlord found him unresponsive, called an ambulance, and by the time they got there, there was really nothing they could do. So I have put in the chat, and I'm going to be putting just now, again, a link to a GoFundMe, which was set up to help cover his final costs. It's going to help cover funeral costs, body transport costs, costs to help relocate his service animal. So, yeah, and Esmity has hashtag #WhatAboutBool. So, it's already been a really rough week for a lot of people, myself included. I wasn't super close with Boole, but I was on a fair few calls with him, and we did interact. And my assessment has been the same as the general assessment, that basically it's hard to think of a better human than Boole. So if you have any money to spare, please help out if you can. Trying to make sure that Boole's final expenses are not too much of a hardship for his family, and that his dog gets to be safely relocated to a place that is good for a dog. We already have some stuff set up for who's going to go and collect the dog and where they're going to go, but the fundraiser can help offset the burden on the people who are going to take care of that, as well as help his family in getting the body back to them, because they don't live very near where he lived. It still feels weird to use the past tense with Boole. So, yeah. As far as channel news goes, I'm sorry, I have not actually put it up on my Patreon or my member Discord, but we do have a video coming out Thursday. It is the final episode of the series about the Genesis Apologetics video. Then Saturday, I do have someone who might be coming on for a Leaving Young Earth Creationism. I need to message them again to make sure that they're still good. But we should have a Leaving Young Earth Creationism for Saturday, which is what? Is that the 2nd?
Yes.
Okay. The next Thursday will probably be a previous series, well, the movie. So it's going to be like a supercut. I am working on submissions for the Speculative Evolution project. Finished the art for one today. That should be up on the World Anvil like first thing tomorrow, and then I'll be starting on the art for another one. So hopefully in a few weeks we'll have the first video for Phase 3. And also, if you're familiar with Sal Cordova, I'm likely to appear pretty soon on his channel talking about Jesus mythicism and why I think it's silly. And then he will likely be appearing on my channel talking about the second law of thermodynamics and why he thinks that the creationist arguments using that are silly. We're sort of doing a back and forth where, like, you know, hey, someone who normally goes against the sort of, you know, quote, creationist view is going to be on the side of the creationist and say that Jesus historicism is the very much better supported position. And then he's going to come on my channel as Young Earth Creationism and say why the second law of thermodynamics does not in any way challenge the theory of evolution. And I've told him that, you know, it's been a rough week. Not just because of Boole. I also had another friend who was in a car crash. He or she was hit by a drunk driver, which has not been fun. There was surgery involved, and yeah. So it's been a rough week, but I don't expect the programming on this channel to change very much. So there you go. Thank you everyone who has watched. Thank you especially to my super chatters, who I believe, I'll double check, Sphincter of Doom and Kettlehorn. Thank you very much. If you do want to support the channel, there are links to join the channel, to join the Patreon. There's a Teespring. Oh, and also Turf Boy for $2 says to Boole with a beer and a bit of crying, and yeah. So you know what? I'll drink to Boole. So you know what? Cheers to Boole. There are a lot of shows that wouldn't be what they are today without Boole. So I hope I see all of you guys on Thursday for the finale to that series. And yeah, please, I'm going to post it one last time in the chat. If you do have any spare money to help out, please do go to that GoFundMe and help out a bit. All right, well, thank you everybody. I did have a fun time, and I'll talk to y'all later.